Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.
Evidence is evidence. It's public. Everybody can look at the evidence and assess it, and eventually, if there's enough evidence, come to the same conclusion.
For newcomers and old-timers alike, the Chloe Sanctuary hopes to give you insight into the health and happiness of your companion parrots. We hope to help you build happy homes using reliable and proven tools. The best homes are built on a rock-solid foundation. And the best foundation for a happy home is the bedrock of science. When we stand on the shoulders of giants, the scientists who have worked long and diligently to understand our companions, we can reach new heights of understanding. And understanding is the key to success. What does avian veterinary medicine have to tell us about our feathered friends? How can we prevent illness, see the signs of disease before it's too late, and care for our birds through ill health? What light does behavioral science shed on their nature, needs, and hopes? How can the tools of behavior shaping make our homes happier for us and our companions? How can we deal with biting, screaming, or other misbehavior? What is it like to live among parrots, let them roam around about you and share a life with them? How much freedom do you give them? What happens if you form a bond of trust with them? Watch and see what understanding their true nature can do for you. Come with us on a journey as we do more than examine a parrot's world. We live in it. Make some popcorn and bring in a few wood blocks. Let everyone have something to chew and a comfortable place to perch. Cockatude is a presentation of the Chloe Sanctuary for Parrots and Cockatoos, a nonprofit charity dedicated to the empowerment of captive parrots and public awareness.
Cockatoos with attitude. Cockatude.
Hi, and welcome to Cockatude, Cockatoos with Attitude. Today's episode is episode 25. How intelligent are they? Yeah, these are like whiz kids with foghorns, pliers, and a master plan. Right, Cecil? And today we have with us Cecil. Hey, Cecil. And Babaloo. Bob, take a bow. And he's going to take his bow. Cause. Kazi. Beaches. Simone. Also known as Gozer the Gozerian. Chloe and Snowball up here. Hi, Chloe. Hi, Snowball. The big guy who's looking at everything down here like, uh-oh, he set up the studio again. Yep, Salamander. How's it going, Sal? How you doing, Sal? Salamander. Good boy. Oh, nice song, Peaches. And we have Sugarbird. Right, Bob? You tell him, Peach. You tell him. Peach, you gotta remind me to take Simone out, too. So we're going to talk about intelligence today in parrots, and anyone who's lived with these guys for a while tends to believe they're highly intelligent. But you've probably got a friend somewhere that thinks their dog or cat is quite intelligent as well. But on a scale, dogs and cats have been shown to be nowhere near as intelligent as these guys. And these guys are rated up with the chimpanzees, so that's a fairly recent rating. And the reason that I pay so much attention to what science says about these guys and little to what my own opinion is because when they investigate, they use specific tools that make it so that they catch their mistakes. You may see something that looks intelligent to you, and upon closer inspection, it's not as intelligent as we think. There's a famous study in behavior science called Clever Hans. There was a guy who had a horse that he said could actually count and add. So this horse would, he'd give it a couple of numbers, and then the horse would stamp its hoof on the ground and come up with the right number. Well, the reason this study is so famous is because he didn't realize it, but he was subtly signaling the horse when to stop. And you can see it in games of chance, for example, poker, where people, what are you doing, Cecil? You want to take my finger off? Go ahead. You want some barbecue sauce? You want some barbecue sauce with that? Oh, okay. So on closer inspection, it was fairly easy to determine this was the case by having someone else perform the demonstration instead of the guy who had trained the horse. When studying behavior science, you will always run across this story of Clever Hans. The horse was clever enough to recognize the signals from the gentleman who had trained it. So people will say my dog is smart because it does this, it always knows in the morning to bring me my shoes, or I actually knew a dog that did that. And they can be trained in context to do certain things, but the way these guys live in the wild, they've adapted to a type of intelligence that's very similar to ours. And it's only been recently that science has started to investigate this. And part of the reason is that we have this thing around our brain called the cortex, this outer section of the brain. It's a newer section of our brain. And that's where our seat of consciousness is, as best we can tell. And it provides the higher functions of our intelligence. These guys don't really have that. What they found out recently through using functional MRIs is that they use a different section of their brain to do essentially the same thing. So what we thought was mimicking, and which science thought was mimicking, has been shown to not be the case, that they actually are able to do some things that are pretty amazing with those brains, which, although they're small, if you were to take this Cecil right in front of me and make him as big as I am, his brain would be almost the same size as mine. So, and there's a huge cranium here for a smaller animal. Now, there's other reasons that it's taken a while for science to really study their intelligence. For one thing, it's not fun to study these guys in the wild. If you were to go to Indonesia and deal with the temperature range from about 78 to 85 every day, 100% humidity, you get off the plane and you're growing mushrooms under your arms. The thunderstorms and constant rain, the huge canopy. If you ever go onto Google Earth and you look down at, say, a place like Ambon, they've cleared out one little spot in Indonesia. The rest of it is just green, and if you go down as close as you can, you're just seeing the tops of trees. So to go in there and study them is pretty tough. Now I have something hidden down here, and I'm going to bring it up, and it's probably going to get their attention. I don't know if I can keep them away from it, but this is a book, The Parrots of Loquillo, The Natural History and Conservation of the Puerto Rican Parrot. It is ignorance of Bob's nature that turned Babalu into a living gargoyle. Bob's would-be parents made a hasty choice and found themselves in living hell, torn between guilt and frustration. I have seen the joy in Babalu's eyes now that he has a new life with me as his companion.
To see Babalu love and trust again is worth the effort of a lifetime. But, once again, Bob is heading toward the pain of separation. My heart nearly broke the day I discovered that he was heading toward a cloacal prolapse, that his life will be cut short. To find love and acceptance and then have it stolen away from you by failing health is too much to bear. We can slow the progress of his failing health, but we can't stop it. He will need several surgeries, and eventually, Babalu will die. We want to give him the best possible life until that day. His surgeries will become progressively more expensive over time. Won't you please lend Babalu a hand and donate to his medical fund today? Our donation button is on our webpage at www.chloesanctuary.org. Just be sure to say, "For Bob," in the notes when you donate.
And in this book, it's a technical book. It's not the kind of thing that most people would read for pleasure. You'd have to be, sick of mind like me to do such a thing. But when they talk about trying to set up bird blinds, they're trying to set up a blind like you do for ducks to get in there and watch the birds. Those parrots knew right away what was going on. They weren't fooling anyone. So here are these researchers, and they get into these blinds, and the parrots fully know they're there. And so they come out, and then the parrots are like, okay, what are they going to do? And if they tried to get too close, the parrots were going somewhere else. So you're dealing with these guys that have incredible vision. We don't know a lot about their hearing, but they seem to hear fairly well. I'm kind of amazed at how they can do that, considering how loud they get. So that's another problem with studying them in the wild. Now, and when you study them in the lab, the animals that we usually study for intelligence, like the chimpanzee, the orangutan, and the human, well, they have digits to pick up things and manipulate them. These guys can pick things up, but they don't have the motion on all of their digits. So they can open and close. They have one muscle to open and close their foot, but they don't have any way to individually move their toes. And a lot of what we think of as intelligence is the ability to make things. Well, they've done they can make things, and they have actually in the laboratory, and we'll talk about that. And then different species have different ways of dealing with things. For example, the African gray in the wild, one of the ways it protects itself is to imitate predators. Because if you've noticed, or if you know much about the hello, you gonna take my ear off or what? Peaches, what's up, baby girl? Hello, Simone. You'll be out in a little while. So, what predators do is they stake a certain territory, and if one of their species who doesn't belong in that territory comes into that area, they get chased out. So if an African gray makes the sound of that predator, when the predator's coming into that area, quite often the predator will leave, thinking I'm in someone else's territory. It's a great method of protecting against predation. But each species is different. The way cockatoos deal with it is they basically just get up as a group and fly back and forth. And when you look at a white bird, like one of these umbrellas, or the pink Moluccans, when they move like this, it confuses the predators and they just go away. Not to mention that loud voice all at once. That's a heck of a way to scare away a predator too. So, and in different parts of their life, they have various ways of dealing with situations. And in the book, The Parrots of Lokia, there isn't any, there's a lot of variation in what these birds will do during a day. So they do give, there's an interesting, I think around page 49, come here, sweetheart. Let's get you down from my face. Let's get you down from my face, you silly. You're trying to eat my face. What's going on today? What's going on with the Cecil? What's going on with the Cecil? Oh, that feels good. Some more. I like that. I do. It's not that hot in here, but it feels good. Nice breeze. You can do that anytime you want. So during the day they have a certain pattern they do, but there is a lot of variation to it. So sometimes they'll forage it, in the early morning from like 7 to 9. Other times they'll vary that a bit. They'll move from one area to another when normally they would stay in the same area for a couple of hours. So they'll pair up in different ways. I mean, as far as their mate pairs, they stay the same. But as far as pairing up for preening and playing around, that can vary. They move into small groups and seem to hang out with like the same ones one day, but they may vary occasionally and hang out with different birds. And this particular book details it exactly. We're talking about the birds being numbered, and they'll say that such and such bird, number 122, moved to this position, and another bird, number 47, sat next to it. They go through all those details. So studying them in the wild's pretty complicated, and it's you can't hide from them. Another thing they talk about in there was when they go to roost at night. Good luck following them. They're terribly good at hiding. So a lot of issues make it more difficult. Dr. Jane Goodall, when she was studying chimpanzees in the wild, she had an advantage that she could stay with them most of the time to observe them. I mean, stay not with them in the group, but she could actually be close to them. They got used to having her around. With the birds, they got used to having the humans there, but they kept that distance and kept a watch on them, so that made it difficult. Now, in captive situations and studies where they're doing this in a clinical setting, the problem is Are you sure? Are you sure, Simone? Oh, good girl. Good girl. There are a lot of problems with dealing with them in captivity. Number one being they don't have hands, so you have to come up with tests that don't require dexterity. And so let me tell you some of my stories, the things that I saw, which became a lot more interesting once I was reading and finding out what they'd studied in the lab. Oh yeah? All right, let's get you out. Come on, let's do it. Let's see what we can do. Come on out, Simone. You think, Bob, we're not gonna fight. Not gonna fight. Don't start that laughing. I know what that means. Hey. You be nice. You be nice. No attacking anybody. Up there. You. Why don't you go up there with your friend? These guys were housed together, so if I put them together, there's a chance we may have no difficulties. And as long as I can keep Bob, preening Cecil will be okay, which I kind of did by manipulating with my hands, but we hope you will consider supporting us on Patreon today. This is how it works. We produce up to 2 videos a month. As a patron, you pledge to give us a donation, whatever you feel is right and meets your budget. Patreon gives us your gift monthly. You can easily set a limit on how much you donate a month. You can change the amount of your pledge at any time. Your gift will allow us to continue bringing you entertaining and informative videos. Patreon.com/Chloe Sanctuary. We look forward to your participation in Cuckitude. Here are some of the stories I had. Cecil one day, and I'm looking for the video. I hope I can attach it to this. But Cecil one day, back when Murray, she was an African Grey we had with us, Murray was sitting on top of the cage, and actually on the cage door, and Cecil climbed up there. Murray didn't want that, apparently from her actions, because when she challenged you, her method of challenging you was to lower her head, lift up her wings, flap them slightly, and say, "Come here, come here, come here." So Cecil, undaunted, kept going, and she lunged at him. In most cases, they don't really try to bite each other, so she just lunged at him, and he just walked down off the cage door, walked over to a pile of toys, found a stick that had... So he gets this stick that has a little ring on it, and there's a toy boat attached to the base of the stick, and he climbs back up to the top of the cage door, holding the stick, and Murray's doing a come here thing at him. And he takes the stick and he just starts doing this with it, and the little boat's swinging. It's cute. At that point, I was on the phone talking to someone, so I had started to record the video because it just looked interesting. I didn't expect what would happen. So he takes that stick with the little boat. He doesn't hurt her, but he whacks her with the little boat. And she takes a step back, and he swings it and whacks her with the little plastic boat again. She takes another step back. Then she starts climbing down the cage, and he gets behind her with the little stick in the boat, and he hits her in the rear with it. When she gets to the bottom, he takes his head, he does this twice, and the boat goes flying away. And then he sits up there like this. That was an amazing thing to see from this Mr. Cecil. So, and I've told the story before, so I'll just make it short, that Lorelei guessed, I would have to say she guessed because she didn't see it, the earpiece I was wearing in my ear. She flew down, grabs my glasses as she goes by, throws them on the floor, and then she flies down right after that and takes my earpiece, which is always what she wants. She doesn't care about my glasses. So, a lot of different stories like that. Bob is another good example. He started doing this on his own, but when I go to change his food, he's got his wet food in the morning, and I'm going to give him the dry food to change it out. And I unlatch the door. He can actually pop off his food holders. So I have to have a chain running across these so-called cockatoo-proof doors. And anyway, as soon as I get that, you think that's funny, Bob? As soon as I get that unlatched, and then I bring down the button that holds it in place, he spins it out to me. And I drop the food in, and he pulls it back into his cage all the way, and then I just lock it back up. He started this on his own, just pushing the food holder out to me. I put the food in it, and then he pulls it back into his cage. So that's pretty intelligent. He understands how that works. What he does with the door, if you don't have the chain across it, is that he just, the way it's set up, it has, I'll put a picture of it in there, but it has this latch that lifts up, and then you have to turn it again. So you have to move it twice, and it's outside the range of his foot. So what he does, he can get it just up in the middle position, and then he jimmies the whole door up, and it pops it out. And if I forget to put a chain across it, and there's wet food in there, that's not fun, because there's wet food all over the floor. That doesn't happen very often, but once in a while I'll forget, and there's other times where I wonder if he hasn't managed to somehow get the chain off the door. But it's not like every time that I do it. I mark down in a ledger, you know, that I've done this. So,
Okay, good boy. Good boy, Babalu. That's my Bob.
okay, you two, you're not going to get next to each other. All right, you two can be next to each other. You two cannot. And when I'm preparing dinner, and I've talked about this before, but just basically that the door is closed, Roman can't see in there. He shouldn't know what I'm doing, but if I'm mixing up his medicine, which has a little peanut butter with it on a craft stick, he knows, because he immediately starts going, I love you, which is something that he always says if he wants affection or if he wants something in general. You are not going to do this. You can go up there, okay? She's getting better, but she's still pretty pushy about trying to get near him. Can't blame her. It's just it doesn't work in our world. I wish she could actually mate to him and have a normal life, but that doesn't happen for these poor guys. So I've seen tons of things. I could go over a bunch of other things that I've seen that all struck me as, wow, that's real intelligence. But again, there are people who think their dog is intelligent because it does something, but they're giving hidden signals to the dog. So you never know how much you're influencing the situation. And what science does is it blocks things off, makes sure the test is done properly, and that everything is checked off so that our human bias isn't placed in the situation. So we can find out the truth of whether or not something is actually happening the way we think it is. And based on that, they're able to come up with theories that explain behavior. Now I'm going to talk about one theory, but before I do, let me quickly explain that the common idea or the common use of the word theory is not how science uses it. In science, a theory is actually, in most cases, proven fact. A good example, the theory of gravity. It's a set of ideas that explain something. So I'm going to read to you from the Rational Wiki. Theory is a Jekyll and Hyde term that means different things depending on context and who is using it. While in everyday speech, anything that attempts to provide an explanation for a cause can be dubbed a theory, a scientific theory has a much more specific meaning. While in everyday speech, anything that attempts to provide an explanation for a cause can be dubbed a theory, a scientific theory has a much more specific meaning. Scientific theory is far more than just a casual conjecture or some Joe's guesswork. A theory in this context is a well-substantiated explanation for a series of facts and observations that is testable and can be used to predict future observations.
Mother parrots teaching their babies their name? That's only a theory. Finally, eating the apple I gave you?
Like the theory of gravity?
The theory of gravity, for instance, we can pretty much figure out where bodies in space are going to be based on that theory of gravity. And based on the theory of gravity, we know that if you take an object on Earth and you drop it, it's going to fall at a rate of 33 feet per second. We know that once it gets up to speed, it's going to fall, and it's going to fall all the way to the Earth. So as it says, it's a well-substantiated explanation. So we know these explanations work. Like Kepler's theories about gravitation, about how heavenly bodies move, it worked. It isn't as accurate as what Einstein came up with, but still, up to a certain point, those theories, Kepler's theories, work. Okay, they actually describe what happens in the physical universe, and they predict what will happen. Theories are the single highest level of scientific achievement, and nothing is just a theory. That would be like saying Bill Gates is just a multi-billionaire. Additionally, one might say that the notion of evolution is just a theory, in the same way that cell theory and the theory of gravitation are just theories. Recently, the Cornell Ornithology Lab was making observations down in Brazil on parrotlets, and they discovered something odd. So what they discovered was that one parrotlet would make a sound and another would respond, and then they'd pair up and go do something. So they wanted to find out what this was, and they had plenty of footage on camera of these things happening, and what they discovered was pretty astounding. And you can find this on YouTube if you look up Cornell Ornithology and parrotlet. You'll find it. What they discovered was that by putting cameras in the nests, which they could do with the smaller parrots, you can't do that with the larger ones because they won't let you anywhere near the nests, that the parents give names to their babies. The babies learn the names of their parents, they learn the names of their siblings, and the names of everyone else in the flock, and then they communicate by using their names. Well, that's a big plus on the side of their intelligence, that they can communicate to each other and then say something roughly to the equivalent of, "Hey Sam, let's go eat those berries." So that was a big plus. And I can't find the study, but they did, and I'm going to look for it. If I can, I'll put it in the show notes, but I read this a few years ago. They did functional magnetic resonance images, fMRIs, down in San Diego, and they were able to show that these guys remember people who would pass by their cage and not say anything. They show a spike of memory for them even after months they hadn't seen this person. They showed a bigger spike if the person had interacted with them, and if the person actually stood there and talked to them and paid good attention to them, an even stronger reaction. So over a year they would remember these things. So they have distinct memories. Now, having distinct memories about situations and individual people, that shows a tremendous cognitive ability. And then in Vienna at the Goffin Lab, they worked, and they've done some tests these are truly amazing. But they've been working with goffins, which is a small cockatoo. Okay, at the Goffin Lab in Lower Austria, they currently have 15 cockatoos. The animals not only manipulate objects for substantial time spans, we have also observed them establishing complex object relationships, similar to those created by 2 to 3 year old human toddlers. All of this can be found on the Goffin Lab's website, and I'm just going to read you a little here and there. Explorative learning. Even if the effort does not result in an immediate reward, the animals are given the opportunity to broaden their behavioral repertoire in an opportunistic manner, arming themselves with new skills for novel situations. Although there are far less studies on birds, results from jays, African gray parrots, kea, and ravens suggest that some corvid and citizen species parrots can succeed in tracking invisible objects. Would you stop being such a pest, or I'll have to put you up? You'll have to calm down. Peaches, come here, Peach. Come here. Are you okay? You all right? Here, let's put you over in your box. Let's put you over there, baby. All right. Spatial knowledge. You can see videos from the Goffins lab that actually show that they can follow an object that's out of their sight. And it's pretty amazing. They lay out these little huts that they put things in, and they move things around like a shell game, and the birds can track it. So they know what they can't see, and a lot of 4 and 5-year-olds can't do that for humans. Means ends learning. This is basically giving them a 2-step problem. You have to do this before you can get that done. So if they're choosing to get to this object over here, they have to do something else to do it. You know, move a lever, go into this place, which will open a door. They're good at that kind of thing, which shows intelligence. In comparative problem solving, what I had said earlier about their brains, they talk about that here. They have an enlarged brain region that shares similarities in neurophysiology and function with the mammalian prefrontal cortex. They additionally have extended periods of parental care, that's juvenile dependency, and have long life expectancies, which are all indicators for advanced cognitive abilities. And it goes on. They talk about social cognition, social interactions. And if you go to YouTube and you look up how a parrot learns its name, you can see how they did these studies in the wild to determine that these birds actually know their name. And there's the classic, you just determined to give me trouble today, aren't you? Should I tickle you? Should I tickle the Cecil? The Cecil want to get petted. The Cecil, oh, you back off. You're causing trouble down here. Stop that. Hi, Cecil. Hi, Cecil bird. Hey, Cecil. See, what happens is if she's in the room, if Simone's in the room with him, he'll start to get nippy and he'll start getting pushy. And that's because he's a male and he wants to mate with her. They want to become a mated pair, and so I'm going to see some of this behavior. This is a good thing to let you know why you don't want to have a male and female become bonded in your home. That kind of behavior is typical for it. So I'm going to put her up and see if we can slow this down now. Come here, sweetheart. Come on. Now, this is going to be fun because she doesn't like to go back into the small cage under these circumstances. All right. That should calm him down. Huh, Cecil? Will that calm you down a bit? When she's in the cage, you'll calm down. Now he's starting to make his hissing sound. There it is. That little sound is an indicator that they're getting a little territorial. So you want to let them calm down if you can. Or give him, in this case, give him something he could chew on. Of course, with Cecil, that may mean he's going to whack me in the head with it. That seems to be Cecil's methodology. So, Dr. Pepperberg and Alex. Dr. Pepperberg actually went to a store to get an African Grey to start this study, and she asked for the attendant, the person that was helping, just to grab any bird, nothing special, out of the cage. She didn't want to grab anybody special, just one of the Greys, and she was going to study. And she studied him. Well, he was 31 when he died, which is early. I believe it was 31. And he just apparently had some kind of issue related to his immune system and his heart. That's the best they could say. But by the time he had, the time he passed away, he had shown that not only did he understand how to count from 1 to 6, he also understood the concept of 0. And this has all been, and she had to be meticulous, okay? She had to be meticulous because people weren't going to believe this, and she knew it. So she had to be scientifically meticulous. She had to have extensive notes. She had to have different people providing this, doing the same kind of training and doing this rather than just one person. Remember Clever Hans, right? Clever Hans, that horse responded to the trainer. So by having different people, and she did this over a long time, successively different people, and there were college students helping her. They all performed the same thing, and Alex responded, and all this was recorded exactly how he responded. And if you see some of the videos, which are available, if you just search Alex and Pepperberg on YouTube, you'll find them. He could count the number of yellow squares, triangles, different shaped objects. He could actually count the ones that were one color and a square. He didn't call them squares, he said 4 corners. A triangle was 3-cornered. So if you asked him how many 3-cornered objects there were that were green, he could tell you. And his accuracy level was extremely high. The only time it ever dropped is when he got tired. He'd start saying that he wanted a treat, or that he wanted to go back to his cage. Those were the times that would drop. But so we know their ability, their cognitive ability, is beyond what we expected just from her studies. And she's working with Griffin now, and there's a new bird they just brought in, Athena. They had another one, but it died of PDD, proventricular dilation disease, and it's a horrible, devastating disease that comes from a coronavirus. We have no cure for that. We do now have a test that we can check to see if a bird has it. So that will help us to stop the spread of the disease. Bob, I don't want you eating the couch. Come on. Come on, Bob. No eating the couch. Come over here. I want you to take care of Cecil. Because Cecil's getting a little wild. Would you get him calmed down? Could you do that for me? Could you? So, because of Alex, and he was a Congo African gray, and a species in the wild that imitates predators to get them to get out of the area, right? It's a way of reducing the number of predators in your environment. Good speech abilities. So she chose a particular species that is more vocal, so that she had a good chance of being able to teach as many words to him as possible. He even made up his own word. I don't remember what it was now, but it was a combination of 2 things. So Dr. Pepperberg, shocked the behavioral cognitive scientists because at that time we weren't aware that they were using a different section of their brain to process information like we do, which we're now aware of. And at the time she was doing this, no one was studying it. She was the only one. She had trouble getting funding to do the work. She moved around to different universities. But in the end, because she was so meticulous, and you could peer review her work. Now let's explain peer review too. You may have heard of peer review, and what peer review. You do a study, and then you write down exactly how you did it, okay? You're writing down the details of how you proceeded, step by step, and what your findings are. And then you submit that to a journal, a scientific journal of one kind or another, and then they send it out. Generally it's to 3 different scientists who are in the field, and they just check your work to make sure that, if you didn't miss something that was obvious when you were doing the study. So that's not the be-all and end-all, because the be-all and end-all is to have other people also replicate your work. And in the case of Alex, that's tough to do because it took many years to teach Alex these things. And she's now working on replicating it through another bird, griffin, and through Athena eventually. But groups like the Goffin Lab in Vienna, in Lower Austria, have done work on cognition. And so these studies, Cornell University in the wild, studying parrotlets, and the Goffin Lab in Vienna studying these goffins, and then other scientific groups studying as well have shown and added weight to what Dr. Pepperberg did. They proved that many of the conclusions that she came to are highly credible. So you go from producing a paper, it can be quite complex, and if you ever get the book, The Alex Studies, that goes through the science and shows you exactly how it was approached. Not an easy book to read, but if you get through that book, you will have an idea of how science approaches things and a much greater respect for it. And knowing that she had to be meticulous because her own, the people in her science were going to, the other scientists were going to look at it and go, this is not possible. And it's understandable. We didn't understand how their brains worked. We knew they didn't have a cortex. So how could they possibly process these higher level functions? They do it in a different part of the brain. So when she did that study, scientists then, once they accepted the idea that this study was accurate, they started looking into the brain and they found out why. That's where these fMRIs came up with proof that there's a different section of the brain that processes that information. So I have another study here too that I got from Science. Parrots are capable of logical leaps according to a new study in which a gray parrot named Awisa used reasoning to figure out where a bit of food was hidden. The task is one that kids as young as 4 could figure out, but the only other animals that have been shown to use this type of reasoning are great apes. That makes gray parrots the first non-primates to demonstrate such logical smarts, said study researchers. They're doing quite a bit in Vienna, as you can tell. Earlier studies had shown that about 1 out of 5 chimps and other great apes could use logical reasoning to find hidden food. To see if some birds could do the same, she and her colleagues trained 7 gray parrots to choose between a cup where they'd seen food hidden and a cup without food. So they actually set up an experiment to see if these 7 gray parrots could figure out where hidden food was, and the results were amazing. Definitely proving their intelligence. She also set up other experiments. Hey. What's going on with you? Are you okay? Are you all right, Cecil? How come you're so nippy? It's not normally nippy. What's the matter? What's the matter? Cecil bird. Cecil bird. Cecil bird. Cecil bird. Cecil bird. Cecil bird. Hi, Cecil. Hi, Cecil. Aw, it's my boy. That's my Cecil. It's Cecil the cockatoo. Cecil. Hi, Cecil. Yeah, I know you're a good boy. I know you're a good boy. I don't think he likes the clipboard, so I'm kind of redirecting his attention because he's getting to be Nippy Bird, aren't you? What's the matter, Cecil? You okay, big boy? And I pick up the clipboard and he starts freaking out. If you go out to, I'll have that in the show notes on YouTube, but if you go out and you check out that research, which I'm going to link to for you, you can see just how intelligent these guys have been proven to be by science. And what's important about the scientific findings is that it corroborates what we've seen face to face. When you look and you see an animal do something, like when Cecil picked up that stick with the boat on it and climbed up to the top of that cage door and used it to get Murray off the cage, I thought, wow, now there's some true intelligence. You go down, you plan, and planning went down to get a toy to take it back up there and to do that. Can't prove that's what he was doing, But since the tests that that science has done now in the lab, what we've seen from Cornell's ornithology lab, the brain scans and everything else, what I saw that day with Cecil and what I saw with Lorelei when she flew down and took my glasses off so she could get to the earpiece, I can now say, yes, indeed, those were acts of intelligence, and it wasn't just my mind imposing my own belief that they're intelligent on them. The theory of their cognitive ability. Would you stop eating the couch, please? Bob, come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on up here and do me a favor. Come up here and do me a favor. Deal with Cecil, would you? Would you deal with Cecil? Cecil, come on, calm down. Cecil, hey. You're getting way too wild, Cecil. Come on. Calm down. Come on, Cecil. Let's be calm. Let's teach the people how to deal with a bird that's getting overexcited. Now, Cecil, his issue is if he's getting wound up like this, and he's got a toy, he will beat you to death with it. He'll slap you in the head with it. So what I'm trying to do now is just get his attention and make him realize that he's going to be beating me, not just beating against a wall. Right, Cecil? Right, Cecil? Okay. That's okay with you? I know. It's exciting when Dad's got a clipboard, isn't it? Well, I don't need the clipboard anymore, so I'm going to put that over here. Oh, that's what's got you going too, isn't it? Huh? Huh? Here. Here, I'm done with this. Hold on. Hold on. Here. Right over here. Right over here. Wait a second. I don't want you to... There's a paper clip in here. I gotta get the paper clip out. I'll just take a couple of pieces of paper. Cecil, calm down. Cecil, here. There, Cecil. Come on. Want the clipboard? Want it? How you doing, Cecil? How you doing? So sometimes you have to let go of something that seems terribly important to you when it's actually more important to them. I might not do that with my iPhone or something, something else, but in this case, he wanted the clipboard. He was focused on the clipboard. I'm done with it. You can have it now. I probably should have given it to him earlier, but my mind was focused on doing the video, so maybe Cecil Bird, do you want to say goodbye to everybody? Huh? You want to say goodbye to the people, Cecil? He says, no, I'm eating a clipboard. I'm eating a clipboard, Dad. I'm eating a clipboard. I am. You gave me the clipboard, that's my treat. You okay, Peach? Peach? Alright, come here, Peach. Come say goodbye to the people, Peaches. Say goodbye, people. Bob, quit eating the couch, please. Say goodbye, Peaches. Say goodbye. See you next time. Cockatude. Cockatoos with attitude.
We welcome your feedback on our videos. We look forward to your insights, tips, questions, stories, and pictures. You can email us at cockitude@chloesanctuary.org, reach us on Twitter @Chloe Sanctuary, and join with us on our Facebook Chloe Sanctuary page.
Science knowledge only adds to the excitement, the mystery, and the awe of a flower.